ever had to use that.
Maybe you should. For fun.
When, next week?
Yeah.
Next month? Is he here? Oh, that's Mike. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Tequesta and to a regular meeting of the Village Council. It is Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and it is 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Brandon.
Here.
Councilmember Yambro.
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Thank you. The invocation this evening will be led by Pastor Mike Richardson.
Just grateful for you guys. I actually live in unincorporated Tequesta, but my family's so grateful for all that you do to serve this area, to make this place the best place to live. Our congregation is grateful to be here. Let's pray. Jesus, we love you. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for these men and women that serve tirelessly to make Tequesta such a special place, a place that people are moving to, a place that people want to be. And Heavenly Father, I pray that you give them wisdom and discernment to lead in these difficult days that we're going through, where there's so much division, there's so much fear, there's so much confusion. I pray that you'd give them the problem-solving skills they need to lead well. I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for their heart for our village. I'm thankful for their heart for our people. And we pray, Heavenly Father, that you unite our people, that this would be a place that's different. This would be a place of unity. This would be a place of peace, that Tequesta would be a place of hope, that we could be a beacon to other municipalities of people working together for the common good of the city. It's in your name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen.
Amen. The pledge will be led by Vice Mayor Stone. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I just want to note that this meeting is being streamed using both Zoom and the Village's YouTube channel. The Zoom link is on the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have no presentation because it's an agenda item. Today, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is the end of the consent agenda, and we will start with communications from citizens. And I'm going to ask those using Zoom who wish to comment on any agenda item, please do so now by stating your name and address for the record and identifying the agenda item by number and name. Council will take your comments under advisement before voting on the agenda item. Madam Clerk, would you please keep notes on the comments on any agenda item and read them back to council before our vote? All right. First, I would ask if there is, you know what, I just don't see on my agenda. Maybe it's on yours. I don't have, yes, I do. Okay. Is there anyone here that has put in a card to speak to us now, Lori?
I have 5.
Okay.
The first one is from Jill Howard of 270 Country Club Drive. My concern is Tequesta will lose this small town charm if the council continues to vote for these modern, tall buildings. Small beach towns should not have a ruined skyline. This also concerns me about the design of the new recreational center being built. We are not a glitzy community, and I guarantee our residents don't want it to become Palm Beach Gardens, AKA Little New York. For those of us who have lived here for over 4 decades, this is hard to watch. Please keep this village local, allowing outsiders to come in and do whatever they want because they have money, power is wrong. These are all on item number 4.
All right, thank you.
The next one is Raquel Cross of 19 Willow Road. I'm against this. They can have their offices in Harborside, which is a disaster. I speak on behalf of all residents of Willow Road and most of Tequesta when I say we do not want this project taking place and inundating our village with corruption and an unnecessary building that will bring nothing positive to its residents.
I'm sorry, was that person identified in there?
Raquel
Raquel.
Cross.
Okay, thank you.
Next one is Suzanne LaRock of 3450 Canal Court. I have been a resident of Tequesta for 30 years, raised my children in the Tequesta Country Club, and they have chosen to stay in this unique village of ours. We are unlike any other place with our small community and quaint tropical vibe. This 4-story glass monstrosity is so out of character for this village. Public comments on social media, including my own opinion, call this a disgraceful addition. Please do not allow this structure to be part of our village. In addition, the corporate insurance building is very busy. Additional traffic load entering onto Canal Court is not feasible. It is nearly impossible to safely get across US 1 from Canal Court with all the increased traffic. Please consider the residents that serve this village as you contemplate your decision. This is not good for Tequesta. The next person is D. Williams, address unknown. Hello, I am writing in to request that the scope and size of new construction in Tequesta, especially office buildings, with more and more companies choosing virtual work from home options for employees, office buildings are open and empty. Tequesta does not need more. Furthermore, I strongly urge the town to consider keeping empty lots green, but adding a park or green space or dog park or any other attraction that does not involve further degradation to our natural beauty. We have small cities nearby in Stewart and Palm Beach Gardens. Please keep Tequesta from growing. We would love investments in existing commercial real estate for renovations, but don't build new. Last one is Laura Spalding of 3453 Inlet Court. Tequesta has a small town feel, which is a large part of what makes it appealing to young families, small businesses, and retirees alike. The development building proposed goes completely against the feel and character of our village. Do we really want our US 1 corridor to look like Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, or even Harborside? Additionally, how is the abandonment of the alleyway between these streets being addressed? Last discussed with the public, it was clear that the alleyway would be abandoned if and only if the plan presented by Mr. Steiner was followed. I urge you to take this matter and take more input from the community.
Thank you. Is there anyone in chambers that would like to speak to the council at this time? All right, thank you very much. We will now take communications from council, and we'll start with Councilmember D'Ambro.
Thank you, Mayor. I just one item. I'll speak to some of the other agenda items later. Jeremy, I just wanted to thank you and Lori for, on the consent agenda, going ahead and breaking those items up and numbering. It makes it a lot easier to follow them and read through them. So I appreciate the fact that you guys did that. The other thing I did want to ask you about, though, is back in December, I made a request that we go ahead and put together some type of spreadsheet on grants so that we're able to see what grants have been applied for, the purpose of those grants, the amount of the grants, when we're expecting to have decisions made, et cetera. So I know we've got a lot on our plate, but if we could look to move that forward perhaps over the next month or so, that would be much appreciated. And that's it for me for tonight.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I was just going to maybe add that to your monthly report. Just have a running grant thing going on. Might be good. I have nothing to add right now.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Brandon.
I don't have much other than I just really hope our team listens to the residents on any agenda item. That's all.
Councilmember Prince.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to move forward with this agenda. And we will start with our standing reports with Village Attorney Davis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As I mentioned at our last council meeting, and tonight I do have with me Mr. Trey Nazaro. He's joined my firm of counsel. Trey is town attorney for the town of Gulfstream, and he handled that mess of public records litigation that they were embroiled in a number of years ago. Very accomplished litigator, very good local government attorney. Wanted to introduce him to you. He's already helped me behind the scenes with a couple of Tequesta matters with some of your department heads. But he's definitely an asset to my firm, and just wanted to introduce him. And I don't have any other matters to report substantively. Unless you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for the? All right, thank you. Let's
Thank you.
move on. Thank you, Keith. Let's move on to Village Manager Allen and his reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple notes other than what's in the reports. Assuming no setbacks, the groundbreaking will be next Wednesday for the community center. We also have a time capsule, program going right now. So I know we put that on social media. If anybody has any ideas, thoughts to put in that time capsule, we did get it in today. is very nice. Still a little bit of the Chief's thunder. The fire department will be issuing or giving the second vaccinations for those 50 that were able to get signed up the first time. That'll be tomorrow. We've applied for some funding, some reimbursement through the county, through the CARES Act. The fire department has done that. We know that we're in the round for consideration. I think there's 4 or 5 communities that are in this group, so we hope to be getting some funds back, some reimbursement for COVID expenses. And then the PD is also seeking additional grant, similar to the one that they applied for a few months back, to help with gear and COVID-related expenses. So with that, that's my report. I can answer any questions you have.
I actually have a question from the finance report, and I'd like to ask Mr. Dunkley if he would come up. Could you tell us how we are progressing towards the fund balance and if we are on track to be able to increase it by the end of this fiscal year?
Yes, Mayor, if I might, to kind of digress to the fiscal year ended September 30th of 20. And so for that fiscal year, which is currently on the audit, we are projecting a slight increase in the fund balance. The bulk of that increase was due to some budget variances, primarily in the fire department, which was delayed receipt of the rescue ambulance. That accounted for the bulk of the change there. However, there were some positive budget variances in other departments that led to an overall increase in the unassigned fund balance of about $400,000. But that's kind of tempered by the fact that 300 of that was due to the delayed receipt of the rescue. So the net change for last year, looking at that in totality, was around a little bit over 100,000. Going into this year, we have received revenues in connection with the Sea Glass project, as well as some other development projects which we feel will invariably help us towards the projection of the fund balance. So to kind of not speak too much in circles, at the end of each year we kind of take a litmus test. So for fiscal 21, we hope to see a likewise increase, probably 200,000, but right now the budget seems to be on track to meet the projection.
Is that 200,000 over the projection that we had?
It's about 200 or so, but it's very difficult because a lot of the revenues, property taxes included, are front-loaded.
Right.
So we won't get a better feel until after the summer. Another thing as well is we have the COVID-related expenses that we're dealing with. So it's kind of difficult to prognosticate at this point. But all indications are that we're on track for increasing the fund balance slightly.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
I
appreciate
had a
it.
follow-on question. Obviously, with COVID, there were some concerns about, and I'm speaking strictly to tax revenues now, as to whether the tax revenues would meet expectations, but obviously Ford is opened for the most part. Ford is, relative to many other states, is doing relatively well. So when we look at our expectations around our tax revenues, would it be safe to say at this point that you think we will achieve what we forecast? Or could we even do it a little better?
I would think so. The Value Adjustment Board challenges, it's a catch-22 because you'll see a lot of the commercials and the business enterprises, they're going to challenge their assessment because it's more so based on the income approach, how much revenue they can generate. So given the mix of the commercial versus residential, I think we're in a safe place to say that we're going to meet the
Okay.
projection of what's in the fiscal 21 budget.
Okay.
Yeah, we should.
So far, you think we're on track?
Yes, we are. We have collected a significant amount. I think it's about 91%
Okay.
of the total. Most of it is front-loaded because of the
Right.
escrowed mortgage payments in November. But I think we're in good shape,
Okay.
property tax-wise.
Any other questions for Mr. Dunkley?
I'd like to ask one question on the fund balance, the last fiscal year. How many dollars are we short meeting our own resolution that we've passed in the past?
We're a little bit below. The projection is we have to have at least 2 months of operating of the total budget. And so we're slightly below that. I think we were, if my mind serves me correct, without having to look at the CAFR, we were about, and you have to forgive me, I have to go back and research, but we were below. We were, I think the unassigned fund balance was at about a million or so.
Right.
But in terms of, without quoting any numbers, we were below that, and the goal was to try and bring us to 2 months of operating expenditures.
Okay.
So just to
Yep.
maybe elaborate or help with this, as we started this year budget-wise, we were projected to try to get to I'll say a deficit, or we were going to be $600,000 short to that reserve. I haven't seen these audited numbers. We've had some conversations about it, but I mean, we're going to make a little dent in that, probably get to $500,000 still underneath that reserve. And then as we move into this year, seeing those revenues from Sea Glass, we're going to cut that down even more as we get into this year, which is what we budgeted for. We've made a dent. I don't think that, you know, it'll be very close to the end of this year. I don't know that we'll be there, but we've definitely made some strides through the process.
And I think this is the first fiscal year right now we've actually budgeted to add money to the
That's right.
deficit of fund balance.
That's right, yep.
Yes. And I must kind of add just one thing. We are expecting reimbursement for our COVID-related expenses from the county. So that will help a little bit to improve the fund balance.
Thank you.
Well, we're definitely going in the right direction, so thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you very much. We received reports from Chiefs Medina and Trube, and also Utility Director Hammond. Are there any questions of them pertaining to their reports?
Not this evening.
Nothing here? All right, so we will move into our regular agenda. Start with old business. Item 3, authorize a construction manager at risk contract between the Village of Tequesta and Hedrick Brothers Construction. Mr. Allen.
I'll throw through a couple of these slides, but let me do the presentation part first. This is to authorize a contract manager at risk contract between the Village of Tequesta and Hedrick Brothers Construction for the Village of Tequesta Community Center and Park improvements for a guaranteed maximum price of $5,938,954, authorizing the village manager to execute necessary documents, including this GMP. Just so you know, because we've had along the way we've talked about different numbers, but including this GMP is the 14,799 square foot multi-purpose facility. We do have the generator plan for this, the renovation improvements to the park pathways. So that was something that's an additional scope that was not part of the actual building that we planned for. We have some stormwater drainage. I know we've had a lot of conversations about the park and when it rains, so we will be addressing some of the park drainage in this project as well. Landscaping, irrigation around the building, some additional lighting toward the back of the building to help light up the park a little bit, and then the additional parking on Dover Road, which was not part of the original scope of this project either, although it was kind of planned and we went through the whole process. That was never part of the money part of it that we talked about, but that will be part of this project, this guaranteed maximum price that Hedrick Brothers will deliver. As part of this, the debt service recently issued, we allocated $6 million for the construction of the building. We accounted for $350,000 in park improvements. With nearly $200,000 of contingency built into the GMP staff, we are confident that we will remain on budget on this project, the community center and associated park improvements, and will be something the community will enjoy for years to come. I have a couple pictures and we can answer any questions. I know there's some representatives from Hedrick Brother Construction that are here that they're very excited and very eager to get started on this project. You guys have seen some of these already in your packet. This is a general layout of the building. This is the entry into the lobby area, just some renderings of it. There's a couple unique features to this project that you won't see in any other community center anywhere in Palm Beach County, or probably state of Florida, or maybe around the country. This being the slide right in the lobby, right in the reception area, so the younger kids will be able to enjoy that. If you look at the back of this picture, that the glass on the inside of this room actually opens up into the gym area. So you have a 1,600 square foot area that will actually open up into the gym. So when you're talking about day camps, summer camps, things like that, it's going to be an awesome space that you won't see in many other gyms anywhere. As you see here, there's actually two sides. As Jim, it's kind of hard to see. There's actually a curtain down the middle. They made it see-through, but there'll actually be a curtain that separates, divides the room out. So if you do have basketball going on one side, that room opens up and it can have the gym on the other side. So you could have, in essence, you can have summer camp and things going, as well as, other people playing basketball. I didn't plan this, but that looks a lot like Lori Brandon right there, but it just.
I was just gonna say, never wear heels on a basketball court, ever.
This will be the kids' room that's part of the, kind of the reception area, so that way whoever's working the reception will be able to kind of keep an eye on the kids as well. And there's a hallway that would take you down the hallway there. And that's kind of the pictures of the facility. Like I said, I can answer any questions here. Mr. Greg Corbett's here. He's done a lion's share of the work, and really appreciate all of his work to get us to this point. We've had a meeting a couple times a week with Hedrick Brother Construction just to iron out all the details. We're extremely satisfied and happy with the direction we're going, and they're eager to get going. So I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for?
The slide with the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the plan, to put pictures of Tequesta inside of the community center?
I think that, Greg, want to answer that? Greg, this is Greg's, this baby on this one.
Yeah, this is my idea, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
But,
Is it just the one spot, or are we gonna kind of put them
Well, what
throughout?
we're gonna do for the image, I was looking for an image that kind of portrays the village of Tequesta, and the bridge is a signature in this town. So we can keep it permanently, we can do a mural, but actually we're gonna have a projector that's up on the roof that hangs down from the steel, that's gonna project behind the slide, that the image will constantly, it can be changed out very easily.
That's
So
awesome.
if we
Very nice.
have an event that we just had and we want to recap it, we can throw it up there, or we have an event that's coming up, or if we want to portray an individual in the community or something special or whatever, we'll be able to put it up on that wall right there. So that was the intention, but I wanted to show you the potential of what we can do behind the slide.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I did leave out, we did have an updated time frame put into your schedule. There was additional couple weeks that was added to the schedule because of the increased scope with Dover Road and the trail. They still do have it planned to be done by the end of December, so we hope to be in that building, occupying it, and have it open, some kind of ribbon cutting in January still, and I know that was always our ultimate goal, and they're aware of that, and we plan to make that deadline. So.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that we got the generator included into the budget and stuff. But just curious, does anybody know what the length of time that generator could actually run should we need this for a shelter during a storm of some sort?
It's a pretty good generator. We had one conversation about it to make sure that it met the load, because I know we were talking about what we were going to light up in that building during that emergency, and I can find out for you, because we had one conversation, but I was pretty satisfied with the answer at the time, but I can find out.
My question is more directed towards how long it can actually run. How large is the fuel tank, and how many hours can it actually, generate and house people in there should it be required.
Okay, I will find out for you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So, yeah,
Go
want
ahead.
to go first?
Go ahead.
But one thing on that, Bruce, you said during the storm, the building cannot be, we cannot put people in there during a storm itself.
Correct.
But, post the storm, we can obviously accommodate people.
Yeah.
I just want to take a couple of moments, because obviously Greg's had this vision for this center for many, many, many years, and former Councilman Arena was, very supportive of this idea. And at the mayor's urging, I had the opportunity to get involved a number of years ago, and the amount of time, work, and effort that's gone into this by Parks and Rec staff and Jeremy and his staff now, and this council and prior councils, to create something that will really be kind of the heartbeat of this village. I just want to express my appreciation and thanks to everybody who's been involved in this. I mean, this is you know, I know for Greg, I know for Vince, I know for me, this is kind of like a dream come true. And I believe we will have not an exorbitant, but a first-class center that the community will be exceptionally proud of. And Jeremy, as you said, will really meet the needs for all ages as we go forward. 2 years ago, I sat before this council when I was chairing the committee, and I said that our goal was to deliver this center at a cost not to exceed $6 million. So when you factor in the improvements to the park that weren't originally part of that plan and your contingency, we're actually coming in under that number, which also is very gratifying. So again, my appreciation to all the council members who have invested time and energy in this project. Greg, you and your staff, you know, Jeremy, we put together a wonderful plan here, and I know everybody will be very excited to see this completed and opened come the end of the year.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Just going to ask Greg, is there anything that we're missing?
Oh, don't ask him that.
Really?
I can
It's a lot of
see
work
it.
to get to this point. Let's not.
Oh, no, oh, no.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
It's pretty much everything that, that I envisioned for the last almost 20 years to see in this building, that will take us into the next 50 years. And I will have to say that the two gentlemen that are sitting back here from Hedrick Brothers are absolutely phenomenal individuals. Ryan and Doug, they helped us get, along with Jeremy, get to this point, you know, crunching numbers and making sure that we get the best pricing and the best product. And I have all the faith in the world that these guys are going to produce a great, great building when it's done. So I do have to give credit to them, too. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
And Ryan and Doug were good with the timing? Awesome. Thank you, guys.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Yes, really, for everybody involved. On to new business, a conceptual presentation for the Tequesta office building at 691 North US Highway 1. This is so close to the beginning, I don't think we need Lori to reread these because we have heard it. And Nielsa, would you please introduce our presenters?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. The conceptual presentation that you have in front of you is for an office building to be located at the site previously approved for Pelican Square. So with us is the applicant, Mr. George Gentile, please.
Give me just
Yeah,
one
we
moment
kind of
here.
knocked you off there.
It closed off on me, Mayor, I'm sorry.
No, that's.
Mayor, while Mr. Gentile is bringing that up, may I just put on the record, this is a conceptual presentation which our code provides for, but I just wanted to put this on the record because I think it's important. And what the code says is that conceptual presentation is not a quasi-judicial proceeding. No action shall be taken by the village council beyond discussion with the applicant. Neither the outcome of this conceptual presentation nor any comments made during this conceptual presentation by any council member or staff member is a guarantee or assurance in any way of the final action that may be taken by the council pursuant to a formal application for site plan review. So I just wanted to put that on the record that this is nothing that's said tonight. You are not bound by anything that you may say or imply or express. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear on the record.
All righty.
Keith, I'd like to ask you to address one other point, which is when we have projects that fully meet code, talk about what the council can and cannot do under those circumstances.
Well, once you get to a place where you are in a quasi-judicial
Then you can talk.
setting,
Right.
and you have a development application, when you're acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, your role is to consider the evidence that's presented at the hearing before you and apply that to whatever the criteria are. You know, variance has certain criteria, special exception has certain criteria, site plan has certain criteria. And it's your job to make a decision as to whether or not the applicant has presented evidence that meets all of their criteria and meets their burden. If you believe they have done that, then you're obliged to grant the application. If you believe they have not done that, then you're obliged to deny the application. It's really, when you're serving in a quasi-judicial capacity, the issue and the question in your mind is not, what do I think is in the best interest of the village and you know, what's best for the community, you know, that's when you're serving in your legislative capacity. But quasi-judicial, it's have they met the criteria by evidence at the hearing, and if they have, then you should grant it, and if they haven't, then you should deny it, regardless of what you think is in the best interest of the community. So that's the difference. And the only other thing I should say is that reasonably related conditions of approval can be added to any approval in a quasi-judicial hearing.
All right.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Mr. Gentile.
Mayor, thank you so much, and I appreciate all the comments in the beginning. This is a conceptual review, and we are still in the process of working out the details on this. This property became available. The Mastriani family, who you've had conversation here, already are here in the village of Tequesta. They own property. They have an office and facility here on Tequesta Drive. They've been here for a number of years. And so they're looking at this to move their corporate headquarters here into the village of Tequesta. We're here to try to see where we are on a due diligence basis only, to see if this is something the village will be interested in seeing on US 1. As we said, the developer is Allied Capital, Mastriani family. They will be the only ones in this building. It's going to be their headquarters for their projects. And again, as I said, we're in due diligence. The property was put up for sale by the current developer and owners, and they have a contract on it. They are not closed on it and are just looking at it right now. So this is the project location. It's at the terminus at Village Boulevard. It's on the east side of US 1. I think you all are very familiar with it, particularly of the projects that are around it. We do know that there's single family behind the property. This property is a mixed use land use zoning and mixed use land use as well. It's 1.05 acres. The office building that we're proposing is 4 levels. That is allowed by your code on US 1 in these districts. We're proposing 29 surface parking spaces, and in the initial phase of this building, and I'm going to show you this is a little bit unique, it's a very unique building, that we will be putting 22 spaces in a garage that will actually eventually could have more parking in it, but to meet the requirements of what we're doing right now, you'll see where I'm coming from on it. So we're looking at this as being a signature office building, as I said. The building will consist of levels 1 and 2, which will feature parking and common areas to the building. This is going to be a one single user. They will be using the floor level 1 for parking and display vehicles. They have a lot of memorabilia. If you all remember, your former fire rescue personnel who unfortunately passed away when he was retired, the Mastrianis took him on the ride of one of their dream cars throughout the village, and this is their place where they want to have their headquarters and their car collection and to be all the memorabilia that they have for this project. Level 3 and 4 will be approximately 15,000 square feet of office space, and that's where they will have their headquarters and move into those offices. So let me go through this real quick. This is renderings that we have just conceptually done. They've been done by Spina O'Rourke, Keith Spina, and Tammy O'Rourke, I'm sorry. We have a lot of O'Rourkes. I'm talking about the traffic engineer, but she's the architect, and they are a premier architect firm here in the county. They've been here for years. We've worked with them a lot all over the county, and they've done unique and phenomenal buildings. This is the northeast view. What we've tried to do is, if you look at this view, is that the US 1 corridor, it'll look as a 3-story building. This is the elevation, as you can see. And as you know, this property slopes considerably down. We've taken the building and moved it all the way up towards US 1 to the setback so that we are away from the residential neighborhood to the back. As you know, the current plan has buildings within 20 feet of the wall in the back. They're two-story living units, and this will be pushed all the way up to the front. And as we all know, office buildings are minimally used on the weekends and are mainly used during the week process. Again, this is another a look from this is from the parking lot entry view. We're going to have the parking lot that will be improved. This will be the connecting between the two roads on each side, which the alleyway provides now. This will be an easement open to the public, to the Village of Tequesta, to be able to do that as was conditioned in the Pelican Square project. Going to the first floor, there is a lobby space that is located to the south side of the building, and then the initial phase will have required parking for the project as well as an outdoor parking lot. And then they will also have display vehicles, their collection in here. They have a lot of antique auto memorabilia that will be in this lobby area, and this lobby area will be for the entry to the building and to welcome their guests and their business people who come into the office. The second level will be also used for a display of their vehicles. They will have other elements in there, particularly project models that they have of some of their projects that they've been doing. They'll have also a lunch area. This will be their common space for the whole building and a lounge area for them to utilize during lunch hours and off hours. Moving up to the third level, this will be where the corporate offices will start. They'll have offices, conference rooms, the typical items. Their staff will be located in here, and they'll have also workstations as we do in our office because they do a lot of planning and design work and development work with their projects, and they'll be using the internal spaces for that as well. And then we, of course, incorporated all the required fire access. Again, we are in conceptual design, so we still have some things that we're working out. This is the fourth level, the executive level. Again, there'll be executive offices up here, conference area, and then the support staff in other conference rooms so they can use those for executive meetings. The upper two floors that'll be mainly the office use will be approximately 15,300 square feet of net leasable area in this building. So this is just some of the imagery that inspired the design of the project. This is a transitional modern type architecture. We think it's in keeping with the existing building, new buildings that you've been seeing on your US 1 corridor. And we just wanted to show you some of the inspiration that we got from the project. This is, we just wanted to show you that there's a lot of office buildings. The top one, the large one, is actually in North Palm on US 1. It's Cars of Dreams. That's Mr. Stalupi's car collection. They use that facility for fundraisers. The Palm Beach County Sheriff uses it. The Village of North Palm uses it for some of their activities. The bottom are other office buildings that people who are major car collectors and have enough, ability to have them, like to have them displayed and have them in their lobby areas and accent areas. So that's what we're using the first two floors on. We've structured the building so that we can definitely deal with some additional space if the building ever changes on the second floor, but it would be limited because of the parking. So this is a special exception use in the mixed-use zoning district. It's allowed. The unique building design will function and will add to the character of US 1. This is, again, another valuable project that will bring revenue to the village. The village comprehensive plan, which we meet, and consistent with that, we met with your village staff on that before we started the project. We also meet the regulations of the zoning code, and we're not going to be asking for any waivers or variances. So the height of this building meets your code today, and we will stay within that. We are going to still continue to design, and we're here tonight to just ask you to give us any comments, and we're going to move on from there. And I thank you all for listening. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gentile. You want to start first?
Have y'all considered doing any kind of rooftop landscaping on it to soften it up a little bit?
We haven't got that far yet, but yes, we thought about doing something. We're looking at let me go back to the floor plan. I'm sorry, ran through them too fast. But yeah, we have some opportunities that we can do some rooftop landscape or make it a green roof area if it's needed to be. We don't see using those rooftop areas much other than maintaining them for access and stuff. There are some balcony areas in the executive suite and executive office areas, but we're still working on the design of that. This is the 4th floor. You're looking at the 3rd level below, but the 4th floor has a roof area as well that is greatly reduced. We've kind of stepped the building in so that it has some character and movement to it as as it goes up. Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
I know you guys love me. I am very familiar with the Staluvie building, and I do know that there are events that occur there. With this building, with all of the memorabilia in it, is the plan to treat it, other than the little offices for the family itself, or is it a plan to have it as a museum/event?
No.
No. So no events should be happening, parties, parking issues
they
with
may
that?
have their own activities in there, but unless somebody like the village wanted to use it for something, I'm sure that could happen, but they're not anticipating events happening. And this is their memorabilia that they want to have in their corporate headquarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rooftop I had a question about as well. Is it open space, or is it going to be designed to where it is used solely for one purpose? So is it open enough to where you could have gatherings out there, such as?
We're not looking, we haven't gotten that far with it. We're just looking at those areas as just roofed areas, access. They could be made green. We haven't gotten that far yet, but we're listening to comments about, those areas. We haven't really thought about those.
Okay.
Okay. I think if you look on this level 4, there is a small balcony area out here. I mean, with the COVID issues and the pandemic issues, a lot of our meetings in office buildings, when we go to other architects' offices or we go to other clients' offices, if you go to Stiles Development down in West Palm, you cannot meet in their office buildings. You have to meet out on their outside roof area. I don't think we've gotten that far with this, but those are going to become, pretty important spaces if we continue to have pandemics and issues to have more outsideness. And they're looking at doing this as a single office, single user, because they truly want to be the ones who control their environment that they don't have. I have 5 tenants in my office, and I can tell you that we have complaints about somebody not wearing a mask in the hallway, and I'm sorry I don't have mine on, but I wanted you to hear me. They want to have this for themselves on this building.
Okay, this is just solely a question out of curiosity. It's not to be looked into further. What is the need for this building? If you're going to build it in the community of the village, what is it going to contribute back to the community other than your personal use? Are you outgrowing your current building? Do you need more?
No, actually, I think that this will be a little bit smaller space.
Okay.
The other issue that's good to the village is that this is a development project that's going to generate tax revenue for the village. I don't know how else to tell you. It's a office building. It will house offices for the business, that they're a business that's very active in all areas of the country. And they are, you know, they'll be bringing their staff and people here. They will have executives from other areas come in to visit in the building, just like I do in my office. I have a lot of clients come in. But this will be a very, I think it will generate a good tax revenue for this property, for the village.
Okay, my last question for right now is, did you ever consider putting together some sort of slide or visual that compares to everything around it, aside from the one building to the south of it? What about the buildings across the street or to the north of it?
Well, it's in a commercial area. They all are commercial. The only residential we have is in the back.
I understand, but have you ever considered, even for our residents who are going to have to look at this all the time and maybe even visit it for services, have you considered putting together a design element where you can see how it's going to look in the village?
Well, I haven't put a graphic together. I haven't done that yet, Ms. Brandon, but we can definitely do that for you. But we were very conscious of how we were looking at the site plan. We've moved everything away from the residential area and pushed it up to US 1. We've kept the US 1 profile at 3 stories so that we feel that that's a benefit to the residents, the residents of the village of Tequesta. When they come in US 1, they're going to see a 3-level profile instead of a 4-level. Still providing the public access through the parking area and an improved drive. Those are things that I think that we started to look at, but we'll look at other things as well.
Okay, because sometimes for our residents, it's helpful if you can kind of
Absolutely.
showcase how it's going to look
Sure,
and
sure.
how it's going to affect everything between the vibe, the aesthetics, the appeal for people to want to go to it, maybe meet with the business services that are being offered. All right, that's it for now.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I'll go. Couple things. I think that for the council purposes, I think that we should move extremely slow on this. I think that with the development of Harborside, you're going to have residents that actually love it, and then I think we'll also have residents that actually are going to dislike it. And that is an area that I think we need to get a lot of feedback from the residents with regards to this design. The design itself, or at least the general idea, my ask is that I think a lot of people come to the Village of Tequesta because they don't want to get noticed. It's some place where it's every day. People enjoy, they have the ability to do things, but they come here and because it's small, quaint, nice, and people don't want to necessarily be standoffish and look at me kind of a situation. The building is it's a beautiful building. The design of it is beautiful. I don't think it fits into Tequesta with that current design. I would ask that it's not noticeable, and that might not be a good thing for an architect or design in the actual design of it, but I would request that it's not noticeable. Whatever that can be done, that might be a tough task. But I would just, those are my couple of the comments that I have. I know that a handful of people have already reached out to me, and we've heard some of the comments already. There is concern. Another question I've got, do you know if any EB-5 visa money is going to be used to build this building?
I have no knowledge of that. I don't believe so. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not usually involved in any of the financial end of things on the buildings.
Yep, no, I understand.
But we could certainly ask the question, or you could ask the individuals if it is or not.
The other thing that I would say is I know that other municipalities have been in lawsuits with this family, and that gives me concern as well. I don't know what that would be, but there has been some conflict with other municipalities in the area. So that would be a concern that I'd want to look into further. Those are my current comments at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Well, first of all, I'd like to commend you for taking what I think is the sensitivity of the community into account in doing a 3-story frontage, which is consistent with the Austrian building, and moving it forward so that it's closer to the street, which I think, even though the area behind it is unincorporated, Palm Beach County, they're not Tequesta residents, but I think showing some sensitivity to their concerns obviously is important as well. This particular parcel could be used for many different things, obviously. It could be an office building, it could be, you could put retail in there, as the prior project did with some housing. It could be restaurants, it could be any number of things. When the council considered the Austrian building, one of the things we talked about was the fact that an office use, and I think you alluded to this, George, is probably got the lowest impact of any building that could go on that particular site. And with almost half the building dedicated to the memorabilia and other things, I don't know how many employees will be there, but you know, if it's 20, 30, we're not talking about a huge employee group. So the amount of traffic in and out, I think, would be minimized. Not only will it be a benefit from a tax standpoint to the village, but those employees and this company will patronize village businesses. So it'll have a positive impact on the economy, which with the reconstruction of the bridge on US 1, we've all talked about the impact that that might have on the village. I see this as a plus. I'll disagree with my colleague here. I like the design. I don't think this is an issue of trying to make the building disappear. I think it's an issue of having a forward-looking design that is complementary to the community. I think from what I see here, and obviously, as you said, there's more development to come.
Oh, yeah, we're still
But I think with the landscaping, the idea of the green roof, other things, I think this can be an exceptionally attractive building and an exceptionally appealing building, and I think will be an important contribution to the village in many, many, many ways, particularly when you look at other alternative uses. And the reason I asked the question to our village attorney, again, is that while this is a conceptual discussion, ultimately it'll come before us as a quasi-judicial discussion, and that's why I want that clarification. If it meets all the code, we have to make a decision based on that. So we can express our personal preferences. We hope that the Mastriani family and you will take those into account. I think you've already begun to show that you are, and you're doing your very best to do that. But I think you'll ultimately, I hope what we'll see is something that's delivered that will be of tremendous benefit to the village. And I think ultimately, while nobody is going to unanimously agree on anything of this nature, there'll be some people who don't care for it. There'll be many other people that will like it. I think in the end, it'll be a positive development and a positive use of that property.
We appreciate it. This process is excellent for us as designers to get, and the owners, to really get an understanding of where the comments are coming from, and then we need to do our job and go back and try to address those the best we can. But we are trying diligently, and the direction I got from the developer is to make sure that we're not asking for any variances or waivers, and stay within the guidelines in the code, and let's try to do an appropriate project for this area. They are going to be living here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
I just want to have a couple of things I want to say. I just want to make sure that this is not going to be a retail sales of cars.
That is not my understanding at all. They have these cars, this is their collection. It's the
Correct.
memorabilia. They have other things that'll be in there. They have antique gas pumps. They have, if you go to Cars of Dreams, and maybe if any of you can get down there, I owe Nilsa a invitation down there, but if you've ever been in there for any events, it's phenomenal. And the events are some of them are half a dozen people, and that's it. But some of them are large. That area there is a much larger building than this. I mean, that was a major furniture store and part of the Twin City Mall. But they have a remnant of a fire station that they brought in from Manhattan, New York, an old antique fire station. They have a Nate's hot dog stand in there. They have gas pumps, signage from antique signage from gas stations from way before, and I'm pretty old, I got my first vaccine shot, so, but it was before I was born, some of the signage they have in there. So it's just, they're collectors. There's a lot of, you would be surprised how many people collect cars, from Jay Leno to everybody. And The car valuation, just the collection alone at Cars of Dreams is over $15 million in just car collect and memorabilia. So, okay.
One of the things that comes up a couple of times was these special events that this other facility has. And my concern is, and I know we talked about this, my concern is that I don't see this building being used for special events. Now, I know you said unless the village wanted to do something, but again, my own personal opinion is that I would not like to see special events done here. If this is truly an office building in their collection, that we would not be constantly having weekend events where there's music and people are out on the balcony. The other thing about the balcony that we saw is, and I understand the meetings, but if it is too large, that would be something that people would want to go out and have music playing, and if there is an event, and if there would be any consideration that these would be broken up, so like you said, they will be outside of offices, that there is either they are completely closed in, or, which I understand would not be the best way to go, but if they're broken up so that you do not have this big patio type
Yeah, they're
out
not
there.
anticipating, from my understanding, any events in this location. It's, and we'll look at those outside roofed areas and make sure that those concerns are addressed, or they're not used, or they're broken up to the point where the landscape, the green roofs are an excellent suggestion on some areas that will break that up to where if you have green areas, it's not, can't walk up, so.
Okay. All right.
Very good suggestion.
That's all I have. Anything else?
I've got
from anyone?
a couple more questions.
Sure.
that
I just
came
have
to
one
mind.
last comment
Sure.
after him, if you don't mind.
So on the rooftop, obviously, you know, with the houses, residential behind it, maybe tall shrubbery on that rooftop to kind of block any noise or people looking over into their backyards kind of view. The current building that they have here in the Village of Tequesta, on that building, it says auto sales. And so that's, are they planning on maintaining or keeping that building? And would they keep that, or would they try to get out of that building?
I have to be honest with you, I don't know what they're gonna do with that building.
Sure.
I think they're anticipating maintaining the building. But, you know,
Okay.
the collecting cars, they don't probably have enough room for all of them here.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, they wanna put a good number of them in here to keep them with them. You know, I wish I could tell you how to, I don't collect cars. I have horses and chickens. So,
The only other thing that I would ask is, though, is in that building, do they plan on doing any maintenance to those cars? And
I would tell you that they probably do what is done on most of them, is that they have waxing and cleaning them probably daily, okay? Because they need to keep them in tip-top shape, but I don't believe that there's no mechanical repair work going on in there. It's gonna be a lobby area that they're not gonna wanna have that type of stuff going on.
so no sunken floor,
Second floor
no,
is gonna.
no sunken floor and like lifting cars up kind of.
Now, we do have a car
Elevator,
lift
yep, saw
that
that.
you saw in the corner, and that was strategically put in there so that if someday that second floor is not used for any display of vehicles at all, that elevator could be taken out, and we actually will add another 2 parking spaces to the downstairs for the overall office use of the building. So, we've been trying to plan those things for now and in the future, because I would expect you as commissioners would want to know what we're doing, and to know that we have a backup plan on the building, so we're trying. Okay?
So I just want to echo to you guys one last time. On behalf of the residents, new buildings and redesign are very important that they fit into the village. There is a reason why the village looks the way it does, and people do enjoy it, like Mr. Stone said. Is that all clear?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
I don't know what that was.
It is one of the requirements. We're not mentioning height, because I think all of us are aware that that is part of our code, and you guys are within it. One of the requirements, though, is to fit in the village, aesthetically, design-wise, and for the surrounding neighbors and businesses alike. Okay, so I just really, really, really want them to look at, does that design really fit in the village? And I hope planning and zoning really stands strong about looking at, does it fit in the village for the future of the village? Okay, and I'm sorry, and for future reference, if it doesn't fit in the village, any design, then it can go somewhere else. And I know the residents would rather welcome something that fits in the village than something that's gonna change the future of the village to look like something else like Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm Beach, et cetera, et cetera.
We will take the
Lori, I'm gonna-
comment, and
I wanna
we will
comment
do
on
our
that.
best to meet whatever guidelines you all have.
So that's my feedback overall,
Okay.
is just make sure any design coming in is gonna benefit the village overall.
Yeah, I would just say, Lori, there's always more than one opinion on this, and you're speaking as if you're representing all the residents of the village and expressing that. I think there's many residents of the village who would look at this design and be in favor of it. So I think we need to be careful here that, yes, we've talked to different residents, we all have. We've gotten different perspectives and viewpoints, which you do on any issue, and I certainly would not pretend to speak for every resident as far as, on this issue, as far as the design of this building, and I think we need to be cautious in making a general statement of that regard.
Okay. Well, I understand where she was coming from, and obviously the comment, obviously something here, there may be some kind of way to soften. I know the architects are cringing, but maybe some way to soften the building in some way. I particularly like it, but I'm not speaking for the whole village. I do like it, I think, but I tend to have more contemporary taste, and I think that it is a new building, it is on US 1, it is a commercial corridor, and I have no problem with it being a statement in its own. I believe that the Austrade building was something that we all were, it was a change, but there had been nothing developed on US 1 for a very, very long, long time. And again, I just go back to the fact that it is a commercial corridor, and if all of the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, we have to go from there.
Thank you, I appreciate the comments, and I truly believe too that you'll see that with the lack of areas throughout Palm Beach County and for development and for renewal, that you're gonna see a tremendous amount of infill development, and you're gonna see a tremendous amount of redo. We're already seeing that in the Indiantown Road corridor in Jupiter. People are looking at taking buildings down, the old buildings, and putting up new, and and the same thing in other areas. Look at Little Lake Park is doing a 16-story building. I mean, I'm not asking you to do a 16-story building, but you're seeing old retail taken down and going in with new development. And just like I heard you all talking about the benefits of sea glass, and we were so glad to be a part of that, that you're gonna see the same thing happen in Lake Park. Their revenue from that structure and building is gonna be a tremendous boost to their economy. So everybody's looking at that, and I think you all, but I truly, we all appreciate the comments. That's why the entire design team here, I really applaud Keith and his team being here, because we're listening, and we're gonna go back to the client and do the best job we can to make it work for everybody. And you know that we do that as a company.
Yes, you
Thank you
do.
so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for
you,
bringing
Georgia.
it to us, Mr. Gentile. All right, let's move on to item number 5, which is resolution, my glasses on here, resolution 02-21, having to do with a master equipment lease purchase, and this is Mr. Dunkley.
Yes, Mayor, the item before you represents an equipment lease financing arrangement with Choice Bank, formerly BB&T, and it is for the acquisition of SAN computer hardware equipment and associated periphery for the city's network, and will be financed over a period of 3 years at an interest rate of 1.67%. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
I have no questions. I know this was coming. Anything else here?
Good.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Now, item 6, I'm sorry. Item 6, ordinance number 01-21, first reading.
Thank Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 121, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78, Zoning, Article 9, Supplemental Regulations, Division 4, Landscaping. By amending this division to update Florida-friendly landscaping requirements for fertilizer use throughout the village, amending definitions, revising shoreline considerations, updating maintenance, yard waste, and fertilizer management provisions, including provisions for applicability, findings, purpose and intent, licensing and training of applicators, fertilizer content and application rates, timing and best practices for application, and designation of fertilizer-free zones, providing for enforcement of violations and penalties, providing for internal consistency, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date, and for other purposes. Council has workshopped this ordinance, and it has since then been through the local planning agency, and this does come to you with a recommendation for approval.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions concerning this item? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. You know what I want to do here, Keith, and I have to go back. This was a public hearing because it is an ordinance, and I did not open it for council comment, although I did, but now it is closed for council comment. Is there anything that has come in from the public, Lori, on this item? All right, now it is now closed to the public, and I do have a motion, I do have a second, and I have this voted on. So thank you very much. Just want to do it right. Item 7, ordinance number 0221, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 0221, ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Chapter 78 zoning, Section 78-4, 78-296, 78-299, and 78-335 to provide for internal consistency and proper intra-code cross-referencing, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date, and for other purposes. This is the first of a series of ordinances that were previously workshopped that really have to do with cleaning up some code issues, and I know community development presented those at your workshop.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, now open for council comment.
No comment.
Seeing none, it is closed to the council, open to the public. Lori, do you have anything on this? All right, it is closed to the public. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, ordinance number 0321, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 3-21, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of Chapter 78 zoning, Article 1 in general, Section 78-4 definitions, to create an entirely new definition for the term restaurant specialty. At Article 6, Schedule of District Regulations, Section 78-176, C1, Neighborhood Commercial District, 78-177, the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District, and 78-178, C3 Neighborhood Commercial District, to add specialty restaurant to the list of permitted uses, and at Section 78-180 Mixed Use District, to add specialty restaurant to the list of permitted uses in shopping centers. Let's back up. To add specialty restaurant to the list of permitted uses, and to add shopping center to the list of special exception uses, and to provide for consistency between mixed-use district regulations and existing uses within the zoning district. Also at Article 10, off-street and on-street parking and loading regulations, is Section 78-705, required number of parking spaces, to provide the number of parking spaces required for these establishments, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date, and for other purposes.
This is a public hearing, now open for council comment.
I have a question for the public. Did you guys get all that? Is there a way to kind of briefly?
So, and this was workshopped before the council previously. This ordinance would add a new definition for the term specialty restaurant, and it would provide for that use in your commercial zones and your mixed-use zone. And specialty restaurant, I believe, was described by community development when it was workshopped as like a, pardon?
Gelato.
Yes. Yep. So in addition, this ordinance adds shopping center as a special exception use, because although we have shopping centers, it's actually not listed as a use in our code currently. I think because the shopping centers that we have are older and they predate the current code. So this just provides some cleanup on that point. And then finally, it addresses the parking requirements for those uses. So in a nutshell, that's what this does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That was also going to be my question.
You
All
read
right.
so fast.
All right, any other council comment? It is now closed to the council. The hearing is open to the public. Lori? Nothing? It is now closed to the public. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item 9, ordinance number 0421, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 421, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Chapter 78 zoning, Article 9 supplemental regulations, Division 1 generally, revising Section 78-282 structures exempt from height limitations to provide additional restrictions for such structures, providing that each and every other section and subsection in Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date and further purposes. This ordinance amends maximum height requirements, and I'll have community development correct me if I'm wrong, but it addresses things like chimneys and other rooftop appurtenances, provides for those, provides limitations on how many you can have or how much square footage they can cover and how high they can go above the codified maximum height.
Thank you. Before I open the hearing, Nilsa, is there anything else, or did Keith cover that? All right, this is a public hearing, now open for council comment. Seeing none.
I know
I'm
this
sorry.
is something that we did talk about.
Yeah,
in-
yeah, you're right. All right, it is.
I know
go
we
ahead.
said this in the past at some of our council meetings, but
Mm-hmm.
for those who are here or those who are on the Zoom calls, we do appear sometimes to go through these ordinances with little discussion. That's because the primary work occurs in the workshop, so we've always encouraged people in the past to Zoom in or attend those workshops if you want to have an opportunity perhaps to get more in-depth information about what's being done, why it's being considered, what the thoughts of the council were, et cetera.
Thank you, council member. Anything else from council? It is now closed to the council and open to the public. Lori? Nothing here. It is now closed to the public. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 10, ordinance number 0521, first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 0521, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, updating the Comprehensive Plan Capital Improvement Element 5-year capital improvement schedule as provided in Section 163-3177 Florida statutes, providing that the text as updated or revised shall be substituted for and replace the existing text in the adopted capital improvement element, providing for transmittal of a courtesy copy to the State Land Planning Agency, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, and effective date and further purposes. This is a, if not annual, certainly every couple of years event, updating your capital improvement schedule.
All right, and this is for the state, correct?
This is an amendment to your comp plan, so
So it goes to the state.
we will send a copy to the DEO, the State Land Planning Agency. Yes, that's correct.
Right, okay, thank you. This is a public hearing now open for council comment.
Neil, so I know there was a time where this lagged, but at this
Excuse
point,
me?
there was a time when we were lagging on that comp plan, as you know. This update, is this going to, do we anticipate this to be an annual event, or do we anticipate it only if there's a material change subject to a certain period of time where you have to update?
That's a great question, because usually the way it is done is when you are preparing your yearly budget, there should be already part of the yearly budget, a capital improvement schedule. So actually, I have been talking with Mr. Hugh, and he envisioned also that for example, for this coming budget year, there will be already part of it, and it will be all approved at once. But because we didn't have that process, so we are doing
Correct.
it separately. But crossing my fingers that from now on, it will be just all together with the budget.
So we expect to do this annually going forward?
Yes, it's annually, and then we do a courtesy transmitter to the state and to the Treasurer Coast also, Regional Planning Agency.
Thank you.
The only thing that I would add in, looking at some of the numbers for fiscal year 2021 on, like the rec center, it's 4.7 million. Is that stuff going to be updated to kind of the current numbers? Also, I see where you got park lighting in year 2022 and Constitution Park Pathway, which I think is going to be done all part of this rec center. So just look at those things and how to clean that up a little bit.
Good point.
Yes, in the past, just so you know, it was not in sync at all. It really wasn't. It should have been, and we're doing much, much, much better. So I thank you and Hugh and Jeremy for putting this all together. So is there a way to make that modification still, or do we just approve this now and continue?
Or can we approve it subject to the correction of the numbers?
You could have, do we know what the corrected numbers are?
I believe we do.
For those two, yes, we do.
Yeah, I think that the council could have motioned to approve and just in the motion indicate what amendments you want made. This is first reading, so.
Right, thank you. Anything here? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Kyle,
Did you
if
have
you
more,
do the
Kyle? I'm
honors.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll just make a
I
motion
thought we did, okay.
to approve updating the rec center number to the numbers we were passed earlier today and moving the Constitution Park lighting and pathway, or just lump it all together into this fiscal year.
Thank you. All
Second.
right. And before we do that, did I check with you, Laurie, on this? There were no public comments, that's what I thought. Okay. You have a second? I have a second on
Second.
this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
One thing, Madam Mayor, I also wanted to mention that all these ordinance, they went through the local planning agency, LPA, which is our planning and zoning board, so there were more opportunity for public participation. So, and
Okay.
as you know, the planning and zoning board, they take very seriously their job, and we discuss it and review all these ordinance too.
All right, thank you very much. Item 11, approval of the annual report of the Village Infrastructure Surtax Citizen Oversight Committee. And I think, Nielsen, you're listed on this. And before you start, I'm just going to ask the clerk, are there any comments for anything else going forward? All right, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Yes, the committee meets once a year, and they review this on their January meeting. So at the meeting, it was in attendance our finance director and also our public works director. So, and they did provided answers and a presentation to the committee, which also is the Planning and Zoning Board, who sits as the Surtax Committee. And that was recommended for approval to the council.
And just to be clear, I think sometimes it's referred to as the penny sales tax money, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Just for our residents, because we are subject to very strict rules as to how that can be spent. And so this is an oversight committee that makes sure that we are on track with all of that.
The other thing that I'd add is this is supposed to sunset as well, and there's no guarantee that it will continue on once it sunsets.
Okay. All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 12, approve annual pathway and minor construction piggyback contract, and this is Mr. Chambers.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. The contract we previously had for pathway, roadway, and drainage construction expired last month, January 22nd. That contract was with Win & Sons Construction. It was a competitively bid contract back in 2017, and it had fixed pricing for 4 years. Palm Beach County just awarded a new competitively bid pathway, roadway, and drainage construction contract to 3 contractors, Win & Sons, All Paving, and West Construction. We can benefit by utilizing this contract. Awarding the contract to 3 separate contractors gives us some flexibility when choosing a contract for a specific project for our needs, and we could have multiple projects running at the same time as well. This contract is based on line item pricing for road work, sidewalk repair and replacement, and drainage construction projects. The contract is also has fixed pricing through November 2023 with an option to renew for an additional year should the county choose and should we choose if you approve that contract tonight. When comparing the new contract pricing to the previous contracting from 2017, it is relatively competitive with about a 5 to 7% increase depending on the type of work and project that you're working on. Where asphalt prices have actually increased, concrete work has decreased. For your reference, the contract cost to mill and pave A 1 mile roadway is $23.81 per linear foot, which fits within our budget. And the contract cost to repair and replace a 4-inch, 6-foot wide sidewalk is $37.07 per linear foot. It is my recommendation to the village council that we piggyback this contract through 2023.
Thank you. Any comments or
I
questions?
just had one quick question, Doug. How does that price for the concrete compare to the work that we've done in the recent past?
It's actually gone down. The concrete pricing has
Okay.
gone down.
But
Asphalt
how-
has gone up a little
how-
bit.
How much, yeah, I know you said it had gone down.
5 to 7%.
Down, on the downside?
On the
For
downside.
No, for the asphalt, but for concrete, you said it had gone down.
Concrete has gone down.
Do you have a percentage? I'm just curious.
About 5 to 7%.
Oh, same
yeah.
thing on the downside?
Per linear foot, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
In just selecting the contractor, you can see what the job is and go to the schedule and say what's.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 13, approve work authorization for hydraulic model and evaluation. I'll let Mr. Hammond take it further.
Good evening. With an eye towards baseball season, I'm happy to play setup to Keith closing out the night here. No, these next two items are the implementation of previously budgeted capital improvement-related projects. The first is the development of a hydraulic model. Hydraulic model allows for the analysis of complex pipe networks, which distribution systems are. The results of this effort will be used to size the water mains that we're moving forward with on the replacement. They also are used to identify current, existing, as well as future deficiencies, most notably our fire flows. And so that's the reason that this was planned for and budgeted for. The engineering firm that was selected for it was Chen Moore in partnership with Wright Pierce. They were selected because of their experience and were recognized within the industry to be, frankly, quite good at this. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you. We'll vote separately, but is item 14 about the same thing? It looked very similar when I looked at item 14.
Yeah, item 14 is it's similar in that it is the implementation of budgeted CIP project. That one's focused at the water treatment plant. Preliminary design, same firm, same partner. It's the preliminary design for upgrades at the water treatment plant, specifically focused on upgrading SCADA and control systems, which in some cases, hardware, which in some places are reaching 20 years old, as well as process improvements focused on saving operational dollars, providing greater flexibility to and control for the operators and removing some inefficiencies.
Thank you. Are there any questions on either one of these items?
I don't have any questions on these items, but I do have a question for him.
All right.
After
Okay,
we
yeah.
pass this.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No?
No, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve item 13?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve item 14?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 15, this is authorizing a piggyback agreement with Centerline Drilling. Mr. Hammond.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Oh,
If
you
you don't
want to do it before? No. Go ahead.
So yesterday, we had a boil notice. Maybe you can give us an update on that situation?
Yep. So yesterday, we had a water main out on US 1 hit by a directional drilling contractor. It affected a number of businesses and residences. It was near the intersection of US 1 and Cove Road. The work was permitted through the FDOT. Given that it's an FDOT corridor, it was marked and identified spot on by our team. I'm starting to think that when we mark lines that they think it's a target rather than something to miss.
Something pretty.
But our team was there, jumped on it. They were able to get it repaired by the end of yesterday, and then this morning complete the repair, and now it's going through the precautionary boil water notice pulling 2 Bacti samples to be able to bring that online. There were a number of businesses, unfortunately, that were affected by it on that strip right there. The cost of the work, as with the others, is being tracked and invoiced to the contractor.
The other thing that I want to add, that there was an attempt poisoning of a water system outside of Tampa. I had a couple residents actually reach out to me about that, and I know we talked to Jeremy about it, but without going into any of the security details, can you tell us a little bit about that we are aware of that and we have some precautions in place?
Yeah, so certainly feel for thankfully it didn't end up coming to anything, but certainly feel for the team over at Oldsmar and the scare that did provide. There are different, we have a number of security measures that they were put in place prior to my getting here. I can't take credit for them. But what is in place is the control systems are at the plant, for lack of a better term, are air gapped from outside interference. That gives us a greater level of safety than what was provided there.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
If I'll just add to that, Brad was out there, was that this morning? Or was that yesterday? I lose track of time. But he double checked and did an audit to confirm there's no outside sources that have interfered with our plant, just in precautionary. We didn't feel like there was, but he took an additional step, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, item 15, having to do with the water supply well rehabilitation.
Yeah, this one is a fairly standard item. It's a piggyback agreement with a well specialized contractor, specifically for the rehabilitation of superficial or shallow wells. Our water treatment plant staff plan for and budget for the rehabilitation of a number of superficial wells each year, so that they are both their operation and life expectancy is the best that it can be. They were tasked with finding, researching and finding the best value piggyback contract to be able to use. I believe that's it would be brought to you if we didn't feel that this was that case.
Excellent, Matt. Any questions on this topic? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last item is 16, the interlocal agreement with the town of Jupiter Inlet Colony to provide special magistrate services, and I believe Mr. Davis is going to take this.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Last month, I was approached by the town attorney for the town of Jupiter Inlet Colony with the request. They have a few code enforcement cases per year, which, based on the volume and the size of the town, makes it difficult to justify creating their own code enforcement infrastructure in terms of a magistrate hearing process. So the question was, what would be our thought of entering into an interlocal agreement that would allow them to bring their code enforcement cases here on days when we have a magistrate hearing scheduled, and our magistrate would, in addition to hearing our cases, would hear their case or their cases. They would, all we'd be doing is providing a magistrate and a room. They would be handling, investigating their own cases, preparing whatever notices and documentation, bringing their code enforcement officer to testify, preparing whatever orders are required. And I've spoken, well, after I was approached by Mr. Doney, that their town attorney, I spoke to our manager about the idea, and he went ahead and thought it was a fine idea. And so with that direction, I had Mr. Doney draft a draft interlocal agreement, which he and I then worked on together, and it provides just for that they would be able to come here and use our magistrate hearing for their code enforcement cases on the occasion that they have them. You know, Bill said if we have 4 a year, that's probably a lot. So this is not going to, and either way, the interlocal agreement provides that Inlet Colony would pay the village fees based on our fee schedule we collect administrative costs when we prosecute a code enforcement case, which include the special magistrate's time. So there's a fee structure based on those administrative costs that we collect that we would bill Jupiter Inlet Colony. So, if a typical code enforcement case takes a quarter of an hour for the magistrate to hear, then we would bill them for the magistrate's time, and they would in turn pay us. I've also spoken with our magistrate. He had absolutely no issue with having that happen at our magistrate hearings, and it's my understanding that Inlet Colony was going to reach out to him as well and memorialize that agreement for their purposes. I apologize, I don't have the document with me, but it's my understanding that Inlet Colony approved this interlocal agreement at their town council meeting on the 8th. So this is before you for your consideration now.
So if I can jump in just for a moment here. We pay the special magistrate to come here, correct?
Yes.
All right. So they now will be participating in that.
Yes.
So the special magistrate was going to be here anyway, but now we have some remuneration from Jupiter Inlet Colony for their.
For the additional time that the magistrate would spend prosecuting their case, they're going to pay for that for his time.
All right.
And that would be really our only expense in this. They're handling everything else about
Okay.
their case, and they'll pay us for the magistrate's time while he's here for their case.
Okay.
We're just providing the venue,
Yeah.
in essence.
Pretty much, yes.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The venue and the magistrate.
Yeah, I think we should be very friendly to them, and I don't think we should make it into a money-making situation. If we're break even, sounds like we are, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, there's no, we would not be upcharging, we would just
No,
simply
like I
be
said,
billing back.
That's
what they
exactly what we
just
have
like
in
we do.
our fee schedule.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's $45 every 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is not a moneymaker by any means.
Yeah,
It's-
right. But any other questions? All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Now we're on to any other matters. Does anyone have something to add?
I had two.
Councilmember Diambra.
I'll be quick, though. Now that the community center finance is approved and we're full speed ahead, I'd like to ask the council if they would be in favor of exploring a couple of opportunities. One is I've got a very good relationship with Mike Holloway, who heads up Futures, and I would like to reach out to Mike to talk with him to see if they would be willing to put some money into the community center, perhaps for some naming rights for some element of the community center, and at least test the waters to see if they're open to it. The other thing is, we are very close to Jupiter Inlet Colony. I echo what the Vice Mayor said. We want to maintain friendly and strong relations. We provide them with water. We provide them with fire and rescue. We're now going to provide them with the magistrate services. There may come a point in time where Inlet Colony actually decides it's beneficial to them to come into the village. I'm not saying that time is any time in the immediate future, but it's a possibility. I have had an informal conversation with one of the commissioners, and there could be some interest on their part in also participating in the community center. We'd have to actually have a discussion about that to see if that's viable in return for a financial contribution. Their residents would have access. But before I would pursue either one of these, I'd like to kind of get the council's input and guidance as to whether they're open to that. And if you're comfortable with my proceeding, at least to start some conversations. Obviously, the village manager and other staff would be involved, but I'd like to see if we can pursue those two opportunities to see what may come out of them.
Let me be clear on the record on this one. I don't believe that you spoke with the mayor about the possibility of coming into the village.
I did not speak to the mayor.
I'm sure you didn't. I can assure you.
I didn't say the mayor.
I can assure you that is not in his mind at all.
They are a strong mayor side of government.
Very strong mayor. We all know Mayor Dan. This is so I just want to clear that, make that very clear, because I don't want anybody to think that that's going to be something quick. Secondarily, let me ask you, Jeremy, I don't know that this is something that we should workshop in terms of, do we want to have naming rights on the building? I mean, where do we start with something like this? rather than just going out before.
Well, I know this has come up before. I don't know if it was Mr. DeAmber that's done that. I do think, I've had some, in my past career, I did have some naming rights of a building that was very contentious. And so I think it'd be prudent of us to workshop it, have some criteria set for the naming rights, so that way everybody's on board with, when we choose a name, why we're choosing it. Maybe it's not a specific person, maybe, company, what their contribution is. I mean, there's a lot of factors that could play into naming rights, and just make sure everybody's on board. And if it's, futures, so be it, but just make sure we have criteria for naming rights, and then we could, set those prices, those costs, maybe even in that workshop, talk about how much that would cost, versus, $10,000 or $100,000, what that would look like. So I would suggest we workshop it, if that's
Just to
okay.
clarify, I wasn't thinking in terms of naming the building. I think the building should be the Tequesta.
No room, anything.
But it could be the gymnasium, for example, or it could be some
Sure.
components within the building, so.
I think that's all, that is something that you and I have discussed
Mm-hmm.
before, but I really think it is something that, before we get out in front of it, that council should decide
That,
how we, move
Okay.
forward with something like that, if they want to. So I think we go to a workshop and really just take it from there. if it's-
That works for me.
Yeah, I would just say, before any of us has any conversations
Sure.
with any other municipalities, I think we should workshop the idea.
Absolutely.
I'll try to get that on
Yeah.
a future
Okay.
workshop in the near future for a workshop,
Right.
if I can.
And like you said, you have experience, and I have seen it where people name something, and then there is some backlash within the community, so we want to be very careful with that. Anybody else with any other matters?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I do, actually. I was approached by a resident of Anchorage Point who is a proponent of annexation. And he would like us to go back and reschedule that meeting that we were about to have when COVID came in. And with your consensus, I would like to have, first of all, your consensus is that we want to go forward again with annexation efforts.
So, if I don't mind, I think the idea of bringing Tequesta all back into one type of municipalities is a great concept. I know that we've talked, the state is currently working through a process, and we've sent our comments of
Right.
support of that. The word's not coming to my mind right now, but in any event, I think we should definitely continue to have conversations with neighborhoods and let them know that there are two methods of coming into the village of Tequesta, and that we should be open to that conversation.
Okay, anything?
I'm fine with doing the meeting again, as long as we feel like people are gonna feel comfortable coming to it.
Apparently, there are some people that
That's
want to
fine.
come to
I mean,
it.
we canceled it because we didn't want to,
was
COVID was
COVID.
just happening, we didn't want
Right.
to put them in jeopardy, but
Right.
I also don't want to,
It's a year later.
my personal views on COVID is one thing, but I don't want to put it too soon if we feel like no one's going to show up to it.
I think what he's saying is there are people that will show
Okay.
up to it.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be 3 when there's,
Well, you have what you call influencers. You have somebody that lives in one home that has a lot of reach within his, his own community, and sometimes they're the person that you want to talk to about this, and then they can make the, it's not like every person's going to come in.
not
And-
everyone, but you think even half would come?
I have no idea. But what I was going to suggest is that Jeremy and Nilsa go back to the package that we had, and just update it. Just make sure that if everything is up to date on that, if council is willing to go forward with this.
No, I think it's a great idea.
But I am willing to go forward, I just want to
Yeah,
make sure that.
yeah, and again, he was
And
the
we
one
need-
who contacted me. He said, I really don't want this to languish.
Go away.
There are people
Yeah.
in Anchorage Point that are interested. So we might as well have the conversation.
We've talked for a long time about trying to, as Vice Mayor said, bring the geography together as a whole. The only question I would have is, with the state legislature supposedly looking at this issue again, do we wait to see what action they take, or do we at least try to incorporate in the discussion what might be occurring? Or do you think that's not, that they might want to move forward regardless?
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to have, and remember, that legislation was so vague, that I don't know that that's really going to make a difference. I think if they want to have a conversation, we should have the conversation. And he was, he called me, he said, I really want to do this, and, just go forward with it. So let's see what we can do. And if they're comfortable, we are well-spaced in here. I think that they
Yeah,
should be okay with that.
Can we make it a Zoom meeting too for them? just in
No, I think this should be a private meeting with them. This should not be a public meeting yet, because that would not be, I think, just a conversation with them with.
To take the pulse.
Just to take the pulse of this. Now, can council, obviously would be, everybody would be invited into this meeting, there's no question, but I do not believe that this should go out at this time. This should be quiet. This should be.
Well, when you say everybody,
It's gotta be a
I mean,
public
we
meeting.
can't have all the council, but
You can have the council, there as long as only one person is speaking. There cannot be
Is that-
any talking, there cannot be any things like that.
So if there's going to be more than one of you at this meeting, it needs to be posted as a public meeting. Now, you don't have to run it up the proverbial flagpole, but other than the legally required notice. But in terms of, when we've had these meetings in the past, there's been a above and beyond effort to reach out and make sure you get a hold of all these people. You don't have to do that, but you'd have to post it as a public meeting, and if somebody perchance showed up, you
Unless
can't
there's only
exclude them.
one council member
If there was
involved.
only one council member present,
Right,
and it was otherwise just a staff meeting, you could have a staff meeting with one council person present. But if there's going to be more than one of you in the room for that, then my advice would be to
Okay.
handle it, even if only one of you ends up talking, it would need to be noticed and posted as a public meeting.
When we did the community center committee meetings, I went to those, and sometimes there was more than one council member in there. I just didn't speak, but I absolutely wanted to listen, like, in person, because
Right.
we weren't streaming at that time. I wanted to be able to listen and get an idea of what was going on.
right.
But
I don't wanna limit
if you're
people.
discussing something that could ultimately come before the council, my understanding is just what the village attorney just said, that has to be posted, so.
And
I
we
would-
did post it, but it wasn't like in your face
But
posted.
if you want to have a private conversation, I understand the rationale behind that, I would suggest that just be one person.
This is
and
what
then-
he
and
is
then you can-
expecting.
And he reached out to you.
Yes,
So
he
I think
did.
you're the natural person. And then we could always have a conversation as
Then it
needed
becomes,
at the next workshop or
Right.
whatever.
right. That is what he is expecting. This is
Okay.
not, something that we want to, they're not ready.
Yeah.
We're not ready.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're thinking. And I think at that point, then, we could then bring it to a workshop, and council could, talk at the workshop, which would be open, would have Zoom and
Right.
everything else. But I think what what he would like to see is that it would be, for instance, Jeremy and me, just to listen.
I think that makes sense.
And that's how we, anybody have any problem with that?
I'm 50-50 on it.
It's just listening, just to hear it, and then it'll come to the entire, and then it comes to everybody.
I'm warm on it.
I think any section of the Village of Tequesta or the Tequesta area that would like to have a discussion about annexing with one of us and the manager is totally appropriate.
Thank you. All right, then let's do that.
Yep.
If that's consensus then on that, we will do it, even with warm.
I'm not against it. I'm just
Okay, she's not against it.
not at all.
All right, we
I
have
said warm.
consensus. All right, and
Don't
I.
mess it up.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, one last thing I just want to mention, because George said this, and I think for going forward when I am not here, we're talking about infill projects, where in fact, let's just say one of our shopping plazas decides to be torn down, let's just say. This is just, if there is concern now about heights of buildings, if there is concern about anything else, we would want to, you all would want to take a look at that again and make sure that 4 stories is okay. But I'm bringing it up now just as something that I think the council may want to consider. And I know there's a lot of things about infill that makes a lot of sense, it really does. I think it'll be wonderful. But there may be, for instance, and I want to name the shopping plaza, but they may want to add a second story that if it's so large that it would be, the height of a third or a fourth, and just make sure that everybody is on board with this moving forward. Just take a look at it, is my suggestion.
I tried to
That's all.
bring that up last.
Right.
Well,
That's
there-
right.
and there's 2 ways to approach that too, because the prior council had actually reduced it to 4 stories.
Yes.
But in certain zoning districts, it's limited at 2. So one way to address this is to say in certain zoning districts, you want to have a different height requirement than others. Obviously, C-glass, totally
Right,
different height
yeah, well,
requirement.
that's, doesn't change.
Commercial corridor, where we're talking about now, has a different height requirement. So, although we did put a 4-story limit throughout the entire commercial area, I believe, but then I think, like I said, C2, I think is limited.
Right, and I think
to
that,
2.
again, that's just a suggestion for all of you, just
Yeah.
to maybe take a look at it, make sure everybody's comfortable with the 4-story.
So are
and
you
if not-
suggesting that we consider reducing it from 4?
I'm not considering anything.
So
I'm
I'm misunderstanding
I'm
what you're saying.
suggesting, because there has been some objection by other,
Because a lot of
Residents.
feedback is, why is everything so big, big, big?
Mhm.
When, if it does meet the code requirements, I
Right.
mean, you vote yes because it's meeting requirements. So if the issue is the requirements, why not re-look at the requirements?
So
And
you're
make sure they're
suggesting that we
fitting
look
for
at
the
the
municipality.
yeah.
Can you legally do that?
So adding is one thing, taking away
Yeah.
is a completely different thing, because you could step into a regulatory takings scenario where you're
Personal property.
taking development rights, vested rights from property owners, and unless they consent to that, no, that could cause serious issues.
But new construction.
Well, even if-
No, because even if you have a vacant lot, that lot has
Is owned by somebody.
vested rights to develop in a certain way right now, and if you take that away,
Future rights.
that could be considered a regulatory.
Is that legal opinion then, that this is not something that we want to wade into at this time?
Taking, if the discussion is reducing maximum height on a wholesale zoning district basis, I would not recommend even going there. That creates all kinds
Even
of.
hypothetically speaking, if I owned the building down there,
Yeah.
and I wanted to tear it down and build a 4-story and it was a 2-story, I would go to court with you to
Absolutely.
fight for
Okay.
that. I mean, you start trying to take my development rights away from me when I own or I'm thinking about buying or something like that, you're opening up a can of worms that you don't want to go
Just
with.
historically, were you here when it was lowered to 4?
Trilla was here.
I think
Trilla.
the firm started representing the village in '07.
Yeah, I think so, because Tom Paterno was on the council at the time.
Correct.
And he was the one that really led that charge, and I'm pretty sure, as I recall, that Trilla was working at that time.
Just for history's sake, I wouldn't mind having the backing to like how many empty lots were available at that time when
Not
it was
even empty
lower.
lots,
Because
though.
it was
Well,
lowered.
it's not just an
I think
empty
it
lot,
matters.
though. That's-
Not empty lots.
No.
It's lots in general.
All right,
I know
so,
we did talk about this maybe about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we had these same conversations.
I know,
I am not in favor of increasing the height.
right.
But, yeah, I don't think anybody was suggesting.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's
And
suggesting.
I know that, I think that if we wanted to discuss that option, I think that's something we would
Well, that
Okay.
was
talk,
like,
but I don't think
one
there's
of the
any need to
issues with the
continue to
Paradise
talk.
Park property was Mr. Zuccarelli would come in, and
Right.
he wanted variances to go to 6 stories.
Right.
And the council at the time, we said absolutely not.
Right.
You know, we are not going any higher than what we currently have.
That's right, that's correct. All right, that was just a suggestion, went down, that's good.
They don't all survive.
There we go, that's
I-
fine, I just want to make sure if you were concerned about things that.
Is there anything that we can discuss with the idea of design? Is design an open concept versus height?
So, there's a current trend getting away from straight zoning like we have in our code is something called form-based code, and it's, Nilsa can probably talk about this a lot better than I can. I'm aware that form-based codes exist, and it's more of a conceptual appearance kind of thing as opposed to having strict numbers for height and setback and lot coverage, but Nilsa would certainly be the expert on form-based code.
Which we don't have now, so it
It's
wouldn't.
exactly like you mentioned, Keith. I mean, our code in Tequesta relies on height, lot coverage, open space. So the form-based code is more like based on design. So that's another approach. And there is also basically codes. You can have a straight code like we have here. You can have form-based code, or you can have also a hybrid that takes some elements from here and some elements from here and propose something. Some municipalities, they have looked at their corridor in terms of design, and it's like at first you do kind of a massive, just mass design, and then you look at, okay, how can we regulate this? You go first from the visual to the regulation, rather than from the regulation to the aesthetics. The other way also is some municipalities, they have design guidelines for specific corridors. For example, like today, George was saying, we can adhere to your guidelines. We don't have guidelines. So anyway, but we could have guidelines for example, our commercial corridor, if we decide to. Or also, we can create an overlay for that corridor. An overlay is also a zoning tool to have specific requirements for that corridor. We still leave the mixed use, the C2, but there could be an overlay. So those are different planning tools that we have that we can apply.
Okay, thank you very much. I leave this in your hands.
Okay. I would make the recommendation that we do open up that box to talk about the design for future look here in the Village of Tequesta.
For future.
I say, Nils's firm would be great with that, and in addition, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council does a lot of that kind of stuff. Dana Little and Kim Delaney would be additional
Excellent.
resources to reach out to, if you like.
So I know we sent out to have a meeting of a future kind of planning concept, have that come up in that conversation, I think would be to start the ball rolling.
So that workshop will be, I guess, future initiatives. Not necessarily that conversation. So in that strategic planning workshop, if that's what you guys want to look at, you tell me this is something that the council as a whole wants to look at, and then we'll have a future workshop that really drills down into that. So the strategic is initiatives that you guys want the village staff to take on as we look at budgets and things like that. So I don't want to get,
Fill it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's, all right, is there anybody else? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Are we off, Lori? Could you?